We're going to be doing some research on this iceberg for horror movies. I don't think we need to start with the top ones, right? You got Friday the 13th, like Conjuring, Child's Play, Scream, and all that, Insidious. I'm sure you've heard of them. As we move down, we got the Texas Chainsaw, Hills Have Eyes, Tusk, Hostel. Things start to get a little more intense, but not really. I'm sure we've all heard of the Texas Chainsaw, Hills Have Eyes, House of a Thousand Corpses, Human Centipede, or Saw. Now we're going to start diving into the water of the iceberg. So we're going to start looking up stuff in this area. Let's dive into Salo or the 120 Days. I'm not even sure what that is. I have to be careful here. I don't know if I can like show a lot of this. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's probably a good call. That's a really good call. 1975 art film directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini. The film is a loose adaptation of the 1785 book, The 120 Days of Sodom, set during World War II and was Pasolini's final film, being released 3 weeks after his murder. Dude, he got murdered and then they released this movie? Really? The film focuses on 4 wealthy, corrupt Italian libertines in the time of the Fascist Republic of Salo. The libertines kidnap 18 teenagers and subject them to 4 months of extreme violence, sadism, and sexual and psychological torture. The film explores themes of political corruption, consumerism, authoritarianism, nihilism, morality, capitalism, totalitarianism, sadism, sexuality, and fascism. The story is in 4 segments inspired by Dante's Divine Comedy. That sounds great. I would love not to watch that, to be honest with you. That doesn't sound anything like I'd want to watch. Had a brief theatrical run in Italy before being banned. January 1976 was released in US the following year, October 3rd, 1977, because it depicts youth subject to graphic violence, torture, sexual abuse, and murder. The film was controversial upon its release and has remained banned in several countries. Well, that sounds awesome. Neato! So definitely a movie that I would want to see, maybe want to check out. It's definitely banned in some places. We move on to, let's see, the Martyrs. I can't pronounce that word. I'm bad with words. Now, I know this movie. I believe it's a 2008 film. It's an hour and 37 minutes. 2008 psychological horror film written and directed by Pascal Laugier, an international co-production of France and Canada. 1971, a young girl, Lucy Jurin, escapes from a disused slaughterhouse where she's been imprisoned and tortured for more than a year. The perpetrators and their motivations remain mysterious. Lucy is placed in an orphanage where she is befriended by a young girl named Anna Asui, who quickly discovers that Lucy believes that she's constantly being terrorized by a ghoulish creature, a disfigured, emaciated woman. Even so, Anna comforts Lucy every time she has a nightmare. Lucy's quest to seek revenge on the people who abducted and tortured her as a child leads her and Anna, also a victim of abuse, into a spiral of something much more sinister. That sounds good, actually. Pascal Laugier, written and directed, produced as well. Oh, not produced. It's a great mindfuck, and it can get super graphic, but it's all justified, you know? Kind of like My Spit on Your Grave. Fun for the whole family, like we are here. Let's move on to Shoujo Subaki, a 1992 anime film that was banned entirely everywhere due to its very dark and depressing storyline, to the point that many people destroyed the tapes of the film. Really? Shit. We find the film on the internet and decide to watch it. The film is not suitable who are experiencing anxiety, stress, and depression. Damn, that sounds crazy. And it's banned everywhere? Exploring psychological degradation. One of the most controversial pieces of anime due to themes of child sexual assault and extreme amounts of gore. 5,000 separate sheets of animation. An orphan is raped, so yeah. That's got it messed up. I can see why it was bad. Okay, that's fair. It's not suitable for anyone. Well, there's that one. Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos is a 1972 American exploitation comedy film directed, written, produced, narrated, filmed, and edited by John Waters. It is part of the Waters has labeled the Trash Trilogy, which includes Female Trouble and Desperate Living. Film stars countercultural drag queen Divine as a criminal living under the name of Babs Johnson, who is proud to be the filthiest person alive, while living in a trailer with her mother, Eddie, son Crackers, and companion Cotton. Divine is confronted by the Marbles, a pair of criminal envious of her reputation, who try to outdo her in the film. And I believe she actually eats a piece of dog shit in this film. Chicken fucking and shit eating. Chicken fucking and shit eating. That's a synopsis. Gotcha. John Waters, you may know him from his very thin mustache. Well, there you go. That's Pink Flamingos. A Serbian film. What's a Serbian film? 2010. An aging porn star agrees to participate in an art film in order to make a clean break from the business, only to discover that he has been drafted into making a pedophilia and necrophilia themed snuff film. Box office, $1,500. That sounds terrible. It's not scary, it just sounds gross. Yeah, I don't like gross films. I love horror, but like there's a certain line you do not cross, you know? Serbian film does not sound like my type of movie to watch. Let's see the images. That makes me feel uncomfortable, man. We're getting deep. We're not even deep yet. We're going to one that I'm sure everyone's heard of. The Human Centipede 2. Exploitation horror film released in 2011. Written, directed, and co-produced by Tom Six, who is a Dutch filmmaker. Film stars Lawrence R. Harvey, a psychiatrically and intellectually impaired Englishman who watches and becomes obsessed with the first Human Centipede film and decides to make his own Centipede consisting of 12 people, including Ashlyn Yenny, an actress from the first film. Oh, she returns to it? Interesting. The second one is supposed to be really gross, you know, like stepping on a baby with a gas pedal. Human Centipede 2 received substantial attention and controversy for its graphic depiction of violence, sexual violence, and body horror. It was subject to heavy censorship throughout the world, where it was sometimes edited to remove objectionable content or banned altogether. Quickly panned by critics, with much criticism focused on its acting, plot, and violence. Pushing the boundaries. Human Centipede 2. I haven't watched it. I don't really have any intention of watching it. I thought the first film was good. Not my jam. We're moving on to Cannibal Holocaust, a film where people actually thought the director killed the actors and actresses. Cannibal Holocaust. This one is, I'm sure you've heard of it. You know, it's that movie where I feel like everyone's heard of, like, oh, it's that movie. So Cannibal Holocaust is 1980 Italian cannibal film directed by Ruggero Deodato. Stars Robert Kerman as Harold Monroe, an anthropologist from New York University who leads a rescue team into the Amazon rainforest to locate a crew of filmmakers, played by Carl York, Francesca Ciardi, Perry Parkinen, and Luca Borbarski. The crew had gone missing while filming a documentary on local cannibal tribes. When the rescue team is only able to recover the crew's lost cans of film, an American television station wishes to broadcast the footage as a sensationalized television special. Upon viewing the reels, Monroe is appalled by the team's actions and objects to the station's intent to air the documentary. Cannibal Holocaust is so messed up, there is real-life animal torture. They actually tortured real-life animals and did not condone that at all. They filmed it in Italy because the laws were more chill. Cannibal Holocaust, people actually thought that these people actually died. They had to bring the actors, I believe, to court to prove that he did not kill them. All right, we're moving on down. Let's do Suicide Club. Suicide Club, known in Japan as Suicide Circle. 2001 Japanese independent horror film written and directed by Sion Sono. The film explores a wave of seemingly unconnected suicides that strikes Japan and the efforts of the police to determine the reasons behind this strange behavior. Gained considerable notoriety in film festivals around the world for its controversial, transgressive subject matter and overall gruesome presentation. Developed significant cult following over the years and won the jury prize for most groundbreaking film in 2003. What is the plot? Takes place over 6 days with footage from a fictional pop group, Desert, opening and closing the film. Story begins with a concert held by Desert in which they perform a J-pop song titled Mail Me. In Tokyo, May 27th, 54 teenage schoolgirls commit mass suicide by throwing themselves in front of an oncoming train. That is a mess. Shortly after, at a hospital, 2 nurses commit suicide by jumping out of a window. At both locations, rolls of skins are found, with the skin in the rolls matching that removed from the bodies of the dead. Believe that a hacker named Kyoko is linked between the suicides and a website that shows the number of suicides as red and white circles. You know what? It actually sounds pretty interesting. The Suicide Club. The movie pretty much follows like a bunch of suicides going on, and then detectives have to try and solve what the link is and what might be happening. I'd give it a watch. You know, it doesn't sound like grotesque or anything, dealing with suicide. I give it a watch. It intrigues me. Let's move on. Tetsuo the Iron Man. I've never heard of this one. 1989 Japanese cyberpunk body horror film. Oh, that sounds fun. Produced, written, edited, and directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. It is shot in the same low-budget underground production style as his first two films. What is the plot here? A metal fetishist, driven mad by the maggots wriggling in the wound he's made to embed metal into his flesh, runs out into the night and is accidentally run down by a Japanese busman and his girlfriend. The pair dispose of the corpse in hopes of quietly moving on with their lives. However, the businessman soon finds that he is now plagued by a vicious curse that transforms his flesh into iron. That actually sounds pretty dope, not gonna lie. Body horror just makes me feel uncomfortable. And that is the point of it, but man, body horror, right? Slowly turning into an Iron Man. I am Iron Man. Oh, I don't want to scroll too far. I don't know what I'll find. Definitely obscure, definitely one I've never heard of. I'd definitely give that a watch. It's on Prime Video. There you go. 80% on Rotten Tomato. Let's move on to one that I have seen called The House That Jack Built. This one also has an actor that you probably heard of, Matt Dillon. Now, I watched this one and it was okay. There's definitely some like messed up parts in it, but to me, it was just okay. So The House That Jack Built is a 2018 horror film written and directed by Lars von Trier, starring Matt Dillon. I like Matt Dillon. He's a good actor, actually. Bruno Ganz, Uma Thurman, Subin Fallon Hogan, Sophie Grabel, Riley Q, and Jeremy Davis. Plot follows Jack, a serial killer, who over a 12-year period from the late 1970s and 80s commits numerous murders in the U.S. state of Washington, utilizing Dante's Inferno as a meta-text. The film is structured as a series of flashbacks relayed by Jack to the Roman poet Virgil, during which Jack attempts to make an argument for his crimes. And yes, he does cut off a woman's tit, puts it underneath a windshield wiper of a cop car. I do remember that. There's some good parts in it. The ending had me a little like questioning things. So The House That Jack Built, check it out. It's not bad. It's more obscure than a lot of these films, but it's not bad. Now we move on from here. I think this was the third one, to the fourth chamber. So let's check out Slow Torture Puke Chamber. You know, we're going to get into a lot of these movies that I've never even heard of. I've never heard of this one. The final in the trilogy. Oh, it's a fucking trilogy. Directed by Lucifer Valentine, written by Lucifer Valentine. Stars Sherry Caruso, Amira Levy. A bulimic prostitute talks about her deranged childhood while being sexually tortured. That gives me so much information. It's part of the Vomit Gore trilogy reel. Insane sadistic director Lucifer Valentine completes his Vomit Gore trilogy with Slow Torture Puke Chamber, the final chapter in the continuing adventures of Angela Insane, the teen runaway who's been subjected to some of the most graphic and horrifying tortures we've ever seen put to video in the first two installments. Again, Valentine uses horrifying tortures, excessive vomiting, excessive bloodletting, and excessive nudity. Oh, well, hello there. Often combined all together. Well, I don't know now. To make some social critique and some spiritual observations, none of which will get through to you as you try to hide your eyes. Resist the urge to vomit, and maybe play with yourself a little. If you're squeamish, easily offended, do not watch. Slow Torture Puke Chamber. I'm sure we'll come across the other two in this list. Life and Death of a Porno Gang. 2009 Serbian horror film following a group of traveling sex show performers and pornographic filmmakers who are lured into making snuff films. How are you lured into making snuff films? It's not like, hey, come here. You gotta make snuff films now. So Marco is an unsuccessful director that begins filming with Kane, a porn director, after he finds himself unable to successfully shoot his own films. Through these films, Marco finds an outlet for the anger he feels towards society, as well as a new group of friends in the porn industry. Marco eventually has a falling out with Kane and starts his own porn cabaret club. And initially, a positive beginning turns sour when Kane's brother interrupts a film premiere, resulting in the press destroying Marco and his club. Marco debates leaving the city, but is approached by a German journalist who suggests that Marco begins making snuff films. It looks like a cheesy kind of movie. A cheesy kind of snuff horror movie. People seem to like it. 75% of people like the film. That's pretty impressive. Let's move on to Snuff 102. Sounds like a radio station. Welcome to Snuff 102, where we give you the lowdown on your latest snuff film. So Snuff 102 is a 2007 horror film written and directed by Mariano Peralta. So the plot is this. Animal experimentation footage is shown, followed by a video of a man dismembering a female body in a bathtub. It is implied that the man masturbates after the corpse has been sufficiently mutilated. Next, someone browses and clicks on the link for Snuff Fantasy. Images of animals and people, mostly women, being tortured and killed cluttered the screen, followed by a real-life video of a pig being stabbed in the throat, squealing and bleeding out. I think it's just telling me all the snuff stuff in it. 101 minutes. I feel like that's a little long for a snuff horror movie. So, an investigative reporter researching the phenomenon known as snuff, phenomenon, gets some first-hand experience in the subject after she is abducted by a psycho, taken to a blood-splattered basement, and filmed while tortured, along with a couple of other unfortunate victims. So if you're a fan of that, you know what? Snuff 102 might just be for you. Let's go to Slaughtered Vomit Dolls. So I believe this is like the second installment. What was that other movie we just did? By Lucifer Valentine, the Vomit Gore trilogy. 2006 surrealist exploitation psychological horror film by Lucifer Valentine, who coined vomit gore as a new subgenre. No one wants that subgenre. Limited theatrical release, February 14, 2006. The film follows a very loose plot structure, consists of assorted random scenes, mostly revolving around Angela Aberdeen, a bulimic stripper turned prostitute. So Angela Aberdeen, or Amiria Levy, is a teenage runaway that suffers from bulimia. In order to make ends meet, she begins working as a prostitute. As her bulimia worsens, Angela begins to experience a series of hallucinations where she experiences visions of the death of her fellow strippers as well as various others. You know, vomit gore, it just doesn't hit with me. I'm good. August Underground is a 2001 American exploitation horror film directed by Fred Vogel and also written by Vogel and Alan Peters. Film stars Vogel as a serial killer named Peter, who kidnaps and kills several innocent people, while his unnamed accomplice, played by Peter, films and documents the murders. Peter, a serial killer, invites his camera-wielding friend into his basement where he is holding a woman named Laura captive. Having already killed her boyfriend, whose castrated body has been left in a bathtub to rot, Peter and his accomplice torture her at their leisure, committing sadistic acts such as slicing one of her nipples off, covering her in feces and urine. Next, the two pick up a female hitchhiker. Peter coerces her into performing oral sex. He beats and leaves her for dead on the side of the road. After the duo are kicked out of the concert for rowdy behavior, Peter and his friend, his accomplice, return to the house to find Laura has died. Peter then murders an old woman in her home, then terrorizes a convenience store with his accomplice, abandon their plans to kidnap the clerk or a shopper when they hear police sirens approaching. The two then proceed to tour Roadside America and visit a tattoo parlor, where the tattoo artist finishes giving Peter a tattoo. He and his twin brother are captured by Peter and the cameraman. They cut a leg off of the tattoo artist and then bludgeon him to death, and his brother as well. The two hire prostitutes for a drug-fueled orgy. Peter sodomizes one prostitute while beating her with a hammer. The remaining prostitute tries to escape. The chaotic chase then ensues. The accomplice drops the camera, leading to silence in the room. A little extreme. You know, I don't like the whole feces and urine part. The whole, like, snuffy, kind of extreme underground horror, I just don't like it. We're moving on. Nekromantik. All right, we're going back to the 80s. This is German, West German. 1987 West German horror exploitation film, co-written and directed by Jörg Buttgereit. I like the movie poster. I can't show it, but I like the movie poster. It is known to be frequently controversial, banned in a number of countries, and has become a cult film over the years due to its transgressive subject matter, including necrophilia and audacious imagery. Film opens at night as a woman urinates on the grass by the side of the road. She pulls up her underwear, gets in a car driven by her husband, and then drive away. The couple lose their way in the dark, subsequently run off the road. The next day, their corpses are discovered, the man inside the vehicle, the woman thrown from it, and her body cut in two. A street sweeper who cleans up after grisly accidents brings home a full corpse for him and his wife to enjoy sexually, but is dismayed to see that his wife prefers the corpse over him. I'm good on the necrophilia. What does that say about his wife if she prefers the corpse over him? Do they have like a stunt corpse? Who plays the corpse? Germans have some crazy horror going on. All right, we move on to Guinea Pig, a Japanese horror film series that consists of 6 films, 6 too many, as well as 2 making of documentaries. Series original concept envisioned by manga artist Dashi Hino, who wrote and directed 2 films in the series, was to create film adaptations of his manga work. The series primarily focused on situations involving graphic violence, gore, mutilation, torture, and murder. Always about the torture, man. The Guinea Pig series has garnered controversy for its depictions of violence. One or more entries in the series were suspected to have influenced Tsutomu Mizaki, a serial killer who kidnapped and murdered 4 young girls. Second film in the series, Guinea Pig 2, supposedly withdrawn from the market and has achieved particular notoriety because of an incident in which an American actor, Charlie Sheen, is said to have watched the film and believed that it depicted the actual killing and dismemberment of a real woman, prompting him to report it to authorities. I had no idea about that. 6 films in this little trilogy? I don't know, man. Guinea Pig, Devil Experiment. Guinea Pig, Flowers of Flesh and Blood. Guinea Pig, He Never Dies. Guinea Pig, Devil Woman Doctor. Guinea Pig, Mermaid in a Manhole. Guinea Pig, Slaughter Special. Guinea Pig, Android of Notre Dame. 7 films. That's too many, man. These are definitely films that I will never watch. I love my horror, but not when it's like merging into real fetishy kind of shit. I'm good. I'm good on that. Vive la muerte. All right, now we're going back to the 70s. So in English, it's called Long Live Death. It is a 1971 French, Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilian, Italian, Filipino, Algerian, Tunisian drama film. Shot in Algeria, France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Brazil, Philippines, Morocco, and directed by Fernando Arrabal. It takes place at the end of the Spanish Civil War, telling the story of Fando, a young boy whose father was turned into the authorities as a suspected communist by his failing sympathizing mother. Called popularity as a midnight movie. In the Spanish Civil War, a boy about 10 tries to make sense of a war and his father's arrest. His mother is religious, sympathetic to the fascists. His father is accused of being a red. Fando discovers that his mother may have aided in his father's arrest. Sometimes he witnesses Fando imagining explanations of what's going on. Sometimes we see him at play alone or with other friends. So I feel like it's not really a horror movie, but more like maybe like a psychological kind of thing. It's a drama film. Don't know why it's on this list then. It is in small letters, so maybe someone just like snuck it in or something. Where the Dead Go to Die. This one's a little bit more recent. It is a 2012 American adult animated anthology horror film. Written, directed, composed, edited, and animated by Jimmy Screamer Claus Creamer. That's his real name? James Creamer? Jimmy Screamer Claus Creamer? Wow, that's fun to say. Film mostly follows Tommy, Ralph, and Sophia, a group of children living on the same block. A demon begins to stalk them in the form of a talking black red-eyed dog named Labby. The dog-like demon takes them on a hellish ride through dimensions and time periods. That just sounds pretty cool. So it's done in chapters, chapter 1, 2, and 3. Chapter 1. On his way to school, a boy named Tommy encounters Labby, tells him that his unborn brother is the Antichrist, and that Tommy must kill him. Labby claims that his mother's breast milk will become tainted after having her second child. Guided by Labby, Tommy is unable to kill his mother. Labby pulls her baby out from the womb and bites off his father's penis. Ow! Tommy passes out and has visions where a fetus is trapped in a bubble, and his parents have mutated into an anthropomorphic dogs. This sounds fucking bizarre. He plunges the situation at a well, where a spirit named Monk asks him for his greatest wish. Tommy wishes his parents were still alive, and Labby says his wish will be granted if he gives him his virginity. Tommy has sex with Labby on top of his parents' corpse. He has sex with a dog? When Labby leaves, Tommy clutches onto his unborn brother and then proceeds to bury his parents and his brother. That's just chapter 1. What's chapter 2 like? Chapter 2, Liquid Memories. Serial killer drug addict, introduced in the film as the man at the well, routinely kills his victims in a church and extracts a memory gland that he uses to alter his own memories. Prostitute offers sexual favors to a paraplegic veteran man in an alley. The man has a flashback and confuses the prostitute for the enemy, pulls out her eye, leading her to kill him by stabbing him in the neck with a bottle. She arrives at the church where the man promptly kills her. He injects himself with her memories and experiences them, which includes imagery of shadow beings, demonic entities, and faceless people. The man fashions a gun and shoots himself. Chapter 3. The mask that the monster wears. Young Ralph wears a mask to conceal his Siamese twin brother and is routinely abused by his family. He has a crush on a classmate, a girl named Sophia. So he goes to her house and talks with her father, who gives him a VHS tape of Sophia being molested. Ralph dislikes that she is crying in the video, but her father responds by telling him to watch it again. Ralph, at the well, is pushed in by Labby. He has a dream where Sophia asks him to take off his mask. He does so, and she is not disgusted. He arrives at Sophia's house, where her father tells him to have sex with Sophia while he films. Ralph comes home to find his father watching the new tape. He says he's proud of Ralph and admits to raping Sophia. Ralph murders him with a baseball bat and shoots his mother. Labby tells Ralph to kill his twin, so he cuts off his twin's face. All right, sounds really Really, really good. Dude, the imagery in this, this is what it looks like. It's like 3D modeled. That's fucking creepy, dude. I got an idea for a movie. It involves a lot of raping and doggy stuff. It's like, stop. Just stop. It definitely looks like it's made to make you feel uncomfortable, especially with all the shit that goes on in the movie. Melancholy, Dirt Ingle. Oh, I'm gonna need like a bucket of bleach after this. Or The Angels Melancholy. 2009 German independent experimental horror film, directed, shot, and edited by Marianne Dora. Co-written by Dora and Carsten Frank. Film opens with a woman named Katja giving birth to an infant, which is immediately beheaded by two mysterious figures. Depressed, feeling his mortality and fearing he is reaching the end of his life, Katz decides to meet his old friend, Roth, who has a Christ-like appearance at an old house in which they used to delve into dark pleasures. They meet two 16-year-old girls, Melanie and Bianca. Together they enter a bar where a woman, Anja, joins the group. Katz also finds two other old acquaintances of his are attending. Henrik, an elderly artist who claims to be a dead man, accompanied by a young woman named Clarissa, who is tied to a wheelchair. Clarissa can only excrete through a urine bag. Okay. The group decides to allow Katz to go out in style as their fun turns increasingly more depraved and horrific. The film contains explicit representation of coprophilic and urophilic actions. I'm not even sure what that is. I really don't know if I want to Google that. One scene involves a man defecating on a woman while taking her panties off, wiping himself, shoving the pair, all while gesturing harshly to put her fingers in his soiled brown hole. Like, why? Why? You have an idea, doesn't mean you should go along with it and do it. Move it on. Juvenile Crime. Juvenile Crime is based on the same real-life murder case as Katsuya Matsumuru's 1995 movie, Concrete Encased High School Girl Murder Case. 2004 independently produced Japanese film that is based on the case murder of Yoko Furuta, who was tortured and killed. And so they did a movie about it. 1988, four young men abduct and held Yoko Furuta for several weeks in the house of one of her captors. And this tells the story of what she went through and what happened. It's a nasty piece of low-budget exploitation. So it's almost filmed to make you feel like you're there experiencing what happened to this person. And a lot of people are calling it dog shit. All right, let's move on to the next one. Juvenile Crime. No thanks, I'm good. Philosophy of a Knife is a 2008 Russian-American horror film written, produced, shot, edited, and directed by Andrei Iskanov. Covers the Japanese Army Unit 7031, mixing archival footage, interviews, and extremely graphic reenactments of experiments performed there. The film is 4 hours long, and there's 2 parts. Shot in black and white in English, and the interviews are shot in color and have English subtitles. So it's about a Unit 731 conducting gruesome experiments on humans in its research for biological and chemical warfare. Again, I'm good. I feel like the deeper we go, I'm just gonna be like, I don't want to watch that. I'm happy with where my mind state's at. I don't need that messing with me. 74% like this film. It's 4.5 on IMDb. 4 stars on Amazon. You watch this on Amazon? Jesus. Regurgitated Sacrifice. Same director, Lucifer Valentine. And it's the second installment of his Vomit Gore trilogy. Like, whoever thought that Vomit Gore was a good idea? I can't imagine anybody likes Vomit Gore. Like, I can't imagine you're sitting there, you're like, yeah, that's just fucking awesome. So if we remember correctly, that girl was having hallucinations, and this is just like a continuation of her downward spiral into hell, and it's not for the faint of heart. Second installment of Lucifer Valentine's Vomit Gore trilogy, Regurgitated Sacrifice, presents the parallel universe suicides of Nirvana singer Kurt Cobain and bulimic prostitute Angela, as seen from the surreal perspective of a hell-bound suicide victim who is slowly drowning. Again, you have an idea for a movie. Maybe you shouldn't use that idea, you know? And I feel like a lot of these movies we've covered tonight, it's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't make those. So this was just part 1 of the horror movie Iceberg. We'll continue. We'll deep dive into more of these movies. But right now, I probably need a shower because I feel gross and dirty. If you guys enjoyed the part 1, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys have notifications turned on so you guys do not miss out on the next creepy video.